Last week, I found myself standing in a grocery store, staring at two nearly identical cartons of milk, completely frozen in decision paralysis. 5 minutes had passed, and I was still there, contemplating which milk would be the perfect choice. Suddenly, I caught my reflection in the refrigerator door, and I had to laugh at myself. Here I was, turning a simple choice into a major life decision. Have you ever found yourself in a similar situation? Perhaps agonizing over the perfect email response, spending hours overthinking a minor comment from a colleague, or losing sleep over whether you said the right thing at a meeting? Think about this. 95% of the things we stress about today won't even cross our minds 3 months from now. Yet in the moment, these small concerns feel like they're carrying the weight of the world. You see, we're all artists in our own right, masters at painting tiny inconveniences into epic catastrophes. But today we're going to learn a different kind of artistry. The art of living light, the mastery of perspective, and the incredible power of understanding that most of what weighs us down is far smaller than we imagine. The question isn't whether you have small stuff in your life. We all do. The real question is, are you ready to stop letting it control your life? Why do we do this to ourselves? Why does a minor criticism from our colleague echo in our minds for days, while 100 compliments fade into the background? Why does one small mistake in a presentation overshadow an otherwise flawless performance? The answer lies in a fascinating quirk of human psychology, our natural tendency to magnify the negative. You see, our brains were designed for survival, not comfort. Deep within our minds sits an ancient alarm system, the amygdala, constantly scanning for threats. This prehistoric survival mechanism doesn't distinguish between a saber-toothed tiger and an awkward social interaction. To your brain, stress is stress, and it responds accordingly. In today's world, we're no longer running from predators, but our brain's magnification system is still working overtime. That unanswered text message, your brain flags it as a potential social threat. That small mistake in your report, your mind processes it as a threat to your survival in the corporate jungle. That slightly tense conversation with your partner, your brain amplifies it into a full-blown crisis. Consider this. Research shows that we spend approximately 85% of our worrying time on things that never actually happen. We're literally creating our own stress, manufacturing our own anxiety, and building our own barriers to peace and happiness. But here's where it gets interesting. This tendency to magnify isn't just about psychology. It's become our cultural default setting. We live in a world where every notification demands immediate attention, where every email seems urgent, where every social media post feels like a judgment on our worth. We've become so accustomed to treating everything as important that we've lost the ability to distinguish what truly matters. Think about your last week. How many times did you lose sleep over something that, in retrospect, was entirely insignificant? How often did you rehearse conversations in your head that never happened? How many hours did you spend worrying about scenarios that never materialized? This magnification isn't just mentally exhausting. It's stealing our joy, draining our energy, and robbing us of the present moment. It's turning molehills into mountains. And worse, it's making us believe that mountain climbing is our only option. Let me introduce you to what I call the 5-5-5 rule. When faced with any situation that's causing you stress, ask yourself, will this matter in 5 minutes? Will this matter in 5 months? Will this matter in 5 years? This simple framework instantly helps you understand the true scale of any problem. Let's apply this to real life. That coffee you spilled on your shirt before an important meeting? 5-5-5. It will matter for 5 minutes while you clean up. Might be a funny story in 5 months, and in 5 years, you probably won't even remember it happened. That presentation where you stumbled over your words, in 5 minutes, your audience will be thinking about lunch. In 5 months, they'll have sat through dozens more presentations. In 5 years, please, they won't even remember they were there. But this isn't just about trivializing our problems. It's about gaining true perspective. Think of your life as a movie. When you're watching a film, a single frame doesn't determine the entire story. Yet in our daily lives, we often let single moments, single frames define our entire day, week, or even month. Here are the questions that can transform your perspective in any situation. Is this a problem or merely an inconvenience? Who will remember this incident next week? What's the absolute worst that could happen, and can I survive it? What would I tell my best friend if they were in this situation? How much mental real estate does this issue deserve? Consider Sarah, a client of mine who was devastated after mixing up the dates for an important client meeting. In her mind, her career was over. But when we zoomed out, we saw the truth. It was a scheduling error that could be fixed with a simple email and a sincere apology. Today, she and that same client have an even stronger relationship because of how professionally she handled the situation. Or take Marcus, who spent 3 weeks agonizing over whether to accept a dinner invitation from his ex-colleague, creating elaborate scenarios of all the awkward conversations that might occur. When he finally attended, he realized he'd spent more time worrying about the dinner than the actual duration of the event. True perspective isn't about minimizing real problems, it's about right-sizing our responses to life's challenges. It's about understanding that most of our daily concerns are like clouds in the sky. They may temporarily block the sun, but they're always moving, always changing, and ultimately always passing. The key is learning to distinguish between what feels urgent in the moment and what will truly matter in the grand tapestry of your life. Because when you zoom out far enough, you'll find that most of what consumes our daily thoughts is simply background noise in the symphony of our lives. Imagine carrying a backpack filled with rocks. Each rock represents something you're stressing about. That argument from last week, the email you're overthinking, the mistake you made 3 months ago. Now imagine setting that backpack down. Feel the immediate physical relief in your shoulders, the straightening of your spine, the newfound lightness in your step. This is what letting go feels like. I recently worked with a CEO who tracked every minor detail in his company through a complex spreadsheet system. Sales numbers, employee attendance, coffee consumption in the break room. Everything was monitored, analyzed, and stressed over. His blood pressure was through the roof. His family life was suffering, and his employees walked on eggshells around him. Then one day, his computer crashed. 3 days of forced disconnection from his tracking systems taught him something invaluable. The company didn't fall apart. In fact, his employees became more proactive, taking initiative in ways they never had before. This is the paradox of letting go. When we release our death grip on control, we often gain more power, not less. Studies show that when we release unnecessary stress, our bodies respond immediately. Our cortisol levels drop, our immune system strengthens, our sleep improves, and our mental clarity sharpens. We literally become better versions of ourselves. But how do we actually let go? It's not about becoming passive or uncaring. Instead, it's about becoming selective with our energy. Here's what happens when you master the art of letting go. First, your relationships improve. When you're not carrying around a backpack full of past grievances and future worries, you become more present with the people around you. You listen better. You respond rather than react. You connect more deeply. Second, your creativity flourishes. Mental energy previously spent on worry becomes available for innovation and problem solving. It's like clearing the cache in your mental computer. Suddenly, everything runs more smoothly. Third, your decision-making improves. Without the noise of unnecessary worry, you can see situations more clearly and make choices from a place of wisdom rather than anxiety. Let me share a technique I call the release ritual. When you find yourself holding on to something small, write it down on a piece of paper. Read it aloud, then ask yourself, has holding on to this served me in any way? Usually the answer is no. Then physically crumple up the paper and throw it away. This physical act helps your brain process the emotional release. Another powerful practice is what I call the worry window. Instead of letting worry seep into every moment of your day, allocate a specific 15-minute window for worrying. When concerns arise outside this window, simply note them down for your next worry session. What most people find is that when their designated worry time arrives, many of their concerns seem laughably small. The liberation of letting go isn't a one-time event, it's a practice. Like any muscle, your letting go muscle gets stronger with use. Start with small things. The driver who cut you off, the slightly cold coffee, the imperfect presentation. As you practice with these smaller releases, you'll develop the strength to let go of bigger things. There's a famous story about a professor who begins his class by placing a large glass jar on his desk. He fills it with big rocks and asks his students if the jar is full. They say yes. Then he adds pebbles, then sand, and finally water, each time revealing that there was still space. The lesson? If he had started with the water or sand, there would have been no room for the big rocks. Your life is that jar. But here's the truth that most people miss. We spend our days filling our jars with sand and water, then wonder why there's no room for the big rocks. We've lost the ability to distinguish between what's urgent and what's important. Let me share what I call the impact matrix. Imagine a simple grid. On one axis, we have time sensitivity, how urgent something feels. On the other axis, we have life impact, how much this will actually matter in your life's bigger picture. Most of what we stress about falls into the high urgency, low impact quadrant. These are your sand and water moments. They demand immediate attention but contribute little to your life's quality or purpose. And think about it. What caused you stress last week? Was it truly important or just loud? Was it actually significant or merely urgent? Did it deserve the mental energy you gave it? Here's how to redefine what's important. First, identify your big rocks. These are your non-negotiables, your true priorities. They might be your health, key relationships, personal growth, or major career goals. These aren't always urgent, but they're always important. Second, create your personal priority framework. Ask yourself these questions. Does this align with my core values? Will this contribute to my long-term well-being? Is this moving me toward my goals or just keeping me busy? Am I responding to someone else's priorities rather than my own? I worked with an artist who was constantly stressed about her social media presence, spending hours perfecting each post, agonizing over likes and comments. Meanwhile, her actual art, her big rocks, was suffering. When she realigned her priorities, focusing on creation rather than validation, not only did her art improve, but ironically, her social media following grew naturally. The power of conscious choice comes from understanding that every yes to something small is a no to something bigger. Every minute spent worrying about a minor criticism is a minute not spent on your major goals. Every hour consumed by unnecessary meetings is an hour not invested in meaningful work. But here's the beautiful part. When you start focusing on what's truly important, the small stuff naturally falls away. It's like tuning a radio. When you find the right frequency, the static disappears on its own. Remember, urgency is often an illusion. The world has convinced us that everything needs immediate attention, immediate response, immediate action. But in reality, very few things are truly urgent. What's important is rarely urgent, and what's urgent is rarely important. Let me share with you 5 powerful tools that can transform your relationship with life's minor stressors. These aren't just theories. They're practical, actionable techniques that you can implement immediately. 1, the daily perspective check. Imagine having a personal altitude button, like in an airplane. Every morning, before you dive into your day, take 60 seconds to mentally zoom out. Look at your calendar, your to-do list, your worries, and ask yourself, from 30,000 feet up, what really matters today? Here's how it works. Write down everything that's on your mind. Now imagine reading this list 5 years from today. What items would make you smile at how much energy you spent worrying about them? Cross those out. What remains are your true priorities. 2, the gratitude shift. This isn't your typical gratitude practice. Instead, I want you to find gratitude in the very things that stress you out. That traffic jam? Time to listen to your favorite podcast. That long line at the coffee shop, a chance to practice patience, that demanding client, an opportunity to improve your communication skills. The key is immediate reframing. The moment you feel stress rising, ask yourself, what's the gift in this situation? This isn't about toxic positivity. It's about finding utility in unavoidable situations. 3, the power pause technique. When you feel overwhelmed by something small, implement the 4-4-4 method. 4 seconds to name the stress trigger. 4 deep breaths to center yourself. 4 questions to ask. Asterisk, is this within my control? Asterisk, will this matter tomorrow? What's the worst that could happen? Asterisk, what's the simplest next step? This technique interrupts your stress response and engages your rational mind before emotions take over. 4, the so what method. This is perhaps the most powerful tool in our arsenal. When caught in a spiral of overthinking, start asking yourself, so what? After each worried thought. Keep asking until you either reach a legitimate concern or realize the futility of your worry. For example, I made a typo in that email. So what? The client might notice. So what? They might think I'm careless. So what? They might, actually, you know what? It's just a typo. 5, the future self-visualization. Close your eyes and imagine yourself 1 month from now. What advice would that person give you about your current worries? Now imagine yourself 1 year from now. What would they say? Finally, imagine yourself at 90, looking back on your life. What would they want you to know about what truly matters? This exercise helps you tap into your own wisdom and perspective. Your future self has invaluable insight about your present concerns. The key to making these tools effective is consistency. Choose one tool and practice it for a week before adding another. Think of them like apps on your mental smartphone. They're there when you need them, but they need to be downloaded and updated through regular use. I've seen these tools transform lives. A surgeon I worked with used the power pause technique between operations, significantly reducing his stress levels while maintaining his precision. A mother of 3 implemented the daily perspective check and found herself enjoying moments with her children instead of constantly worrying about perfect parenting. Remember, these aren't just coping mechanisms, they're transformation tools. They don't just help you handle stress better, they fundamentally change how you perceive and interact with life's challenges. Think of stress like water. You can't stop water from flowing, but you can build channels to direct it, dams to control it, and bridges to rise above it. These tools are your engineering equipment for managing the flow of stress in your life. Creating better habits isn't about dramatic changes. It's about small shifts that create massive results over time. Think of your mind as a garden. You can't force flowers to bloom, but you can create the perfect conditions for growth. Let's build a stress-resistant mindset through 3 key areas: daily practices, environmental changes, and support systems. First, let's talk about daily practices. Start your day with what I call the power hour. This isn't about cramming more into your morning, it's about setting the right tone. Spend 20 minutes in silence, 20 minutes reviewing your priorities, and 20 minutes planning your responses, not reactions. This creates a buffer between you and life's small stresses. Here's the crucial part about daily practices. They must be ridiculously easy to start. Don't aim for an hour of meditation if 5 minutes feels challenging. Begin with 1 deep breath every time you check your phone. Start with a single moment of perspective before each meeting. These tiny practices compound over time. Next, let's examine your environment. Your space shapes your stress levels more than you might realize. Look around your workspace right now. What's causing micro-stress? Maybe it's that stack of papers you keep meaning to file, or the cluttered desktop on your computer, or the constant ping of notifications. Make these environmental changes and create a worry-free zone in your home. Turn off non-essential notifications. Organize your space to reduce visual noise. Set boundaries around your time and energy. But the most powerful aspect of building new habits is your support system. You need 3 types of people in your corner. 1, a mirror. Someone who reflects your true priorities back to you. 2, a mentor. Someone who's mastered the art of staying calm in chaos. 3, a partner. Someone walking the same path. Here's what most people get wrong about support systems. They think it's about finding people to lean on. Actually, it's about creating a network that naturally pulls you toward better habits. When you surround yourself with people who don't sweat the small stuff, you naturally adopt their perspective. Remember this fundamental truth: your new habits need to feel natural, not forced. If you're straining to maintain them, you haven't found the right fit yet. Keep adjusting until your stress-resistant practices feel as natural as breathing. The goal isn't to eliminate stress. That's impossible and actually undesirable. The goal is to build habits that help you process stress more effectively, letting the small stuff flow through you rather than getting stuck in you. Let's bring everything we've discussed into your daily life with concrete scenarios you face every day. In the workplace, when that critical email comes in, before you react, remember the 5-5-5 rule. A colleague drops the ball on a project. Instead of immediate frustration, pause and ask yourself if this is truly a crisis or just an opportunity to practice resilience and problem solving. In family life, your teenager rolls their eyes at your advice. Instead of letting it ruin your evening, recognize it as a normal part of growth. The house isn't perfectly clean when guests arrive. Remember that relationships matter more than appearances. In personal challenges, missed your workout for the 3rd time this week? Instead of self-criticism, use it as data to adjust your schedule. Made a mistake in a social situation? Rather than replaying it endlessly, ask yourself if anyone else will even remember it tomorrow. In social interactions, someone doesn't respond to your text immediately. Instead of crafting scenarios in your head, remind yourself that their response time is about them, not you. Feel awkward at a networking event? Remember that everyone else is probably feeling the same way. Your newfound peace isn't just about you, it's a gift to everyone around you. When you stop sweating the small stuff, you become like a steady rock in a rushing stream, creating a calm space that affects everyone in your orbit. Watch how your children learn to handle their own small setbacks by observing your responses. Notice how your team at work begins to approach challenges with more perspective when you lead by example. See how your partner feels more at ease bringing up concerns because they trust your measured response. Your calm creates a ripple effect that touches countless lives, often in ways you'll never even know.